Hello, friends and listeners, party people. Welcome back to another episode of Party XP. I'm your host, Lakan, and joining me once again is my friend Jeff. Say hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
How you doing, buddy?
Better than you, it sounds.
Yeah, I'm still getting over this little whatever this is. It's like I think it was like a small sinus infection. I have some antibiotics and some other stuff, and I'm doing okay. I'm kind of I'm at the tail end of it, where it's just like everything gross is coming out of me.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, it's been a month and a half, and I'm like still have like the little cough.
Ugh, yeah.
And that's it. But luckily enough, that's it.
Yeah.
So you have a whole month of this to go through. So enjoy.
Yeah. I've been inhaling the hell out of this like Vicks Vapo inhaler thingy.
Oh yeah.
It just burns like the nostril, but in like a good way. You know what I mean? It reminds me of like a more pleasant version of wasabi.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because the wasabi has that nasal burn to it, right? But this Vicks one though, I kind of like it. Like it's kind of weird. I'm over here just sniffing the hell out of it, like if I just need a little bit of relief throughout the night. So it's been nice. I also saw one that was like, I think I saw this on like Shark Tank. They have one of the different like fruit flavors and shit, like fruit scents.
Huh.
And I'm like, I kind of want that. Why can't I find that? Because Vicks is, it's like, it's not a good smell, but it's not a bad smell. You know what I mean? But
right. What follows is good.
Yeah, it's like if I can get like a cherry menthol smell, you know what I mean, in my nose, I feel like that'd be kind of nice.
Yeah,
a little more.
I can see that.
Not as aggressive, not as angry at my face. But yeah, I've been dealing with it for the last couple of days. Over the weekend, I was a mess, man. I couldn't do anything over this weekend. But I'm feeling better overall now. Thank God, just in time too, because I went back to work, regular work schedule now. No more, Christmas, no more New Year's holiday.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Can I just say that? Thank God. I hate the holidays, dude.
Really?
Like I get so out of whack. I'm such a creature of habit that
okay.
like the holidays always throw wrenches into like my habits and my like routine, that I'm just so ready for them to be over once they start. It's really crazy.
See, because I guess because I don't celebrate Christmas, but New Year's is fine, right? But like I think for me, I'm always looking forward to like, oh sweet, I know I'm gonna get like a day off. You know what I mean? And like I think that's what it is for me. Is more I'm just excited for like the break in my habit. I think that's what it is for me. Like I'm fine with routine, but I would like occasionally just really appreciate a break. I think this is what for me that always like that end of the year into the new year kind of window is. I think that's just for me. Again, it's personal. Obviously, everyone's different, but that's just how I look at it. But yeah, like now we're back to normal. Things are kind of getting back to the swing of things. And for our show as well, we're gonna try to get back into our regular routine of our usual format, right? The I pitch you one, you pitch me one. This week, I've got something for you, Jeff. We talked about it a little bit, I believe, during our games we missed episode.
You're really going through it. I'm so sorry. I should have gone first, man.
I thought I was fine. Apparently not. My brain's not working.
That's all the cold medicine.
You're right. Let me just stop. Let me sniff some more of this. Hold on. Let me sniff some more of this Vicks real quick.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. Yes. I already know what you're going to give me. Yeah. So just a peek behind the curtain. We talked about this on episode 46, the games that we missed. And it's one that I had no like qualms, not qualms, but it wasn't something that I intentionally missed, right?
Yeah.
It was just something that I never really got into, even though I was a Steam customer for a long time. I was never really a Valve customer, right?
And I brought up specifically Half-Life, and this is the accompanying almost kind of property to Half-Life, right? It's all in the same connected universe. The game is called Portal. So you know of the game, obviously. I'm sure you know of the memes and know the references and stuff like that. You maybe don't know exactly what they're specifically talking about, right, in terms of the story. But this is a game that's kind of been in the zeitgeist in terms of, like, if you were a PC gamer or even, like, a PS3 360 gamer, because this did come out on as well in the orange box back in the day. So Portal is a 2007 puzzle platforming game developed by Valve. Originally released in a bundle known as the Orange Box for Windows, Xbox 360, and PS3. Later on, it has been ported to other systems including Mac OS, Linux, Android via the NVIDIA Shield, so technically, and even the Switch. So it's primarily consists of like a series of puzzles that are solved using the quote Aperture Science handheld portal device, aka the portal gun. You've probably heard of that one at least.
Mm-hmm.
You play as Shell, a test subject, and are challenged by GLaDOS, I'm sure you know of GLaDOS, to
Yes.
complete each puzzle in the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. Short summary of the development of the game. Portal began in 2005 as a freeware game called Narbacular Drop, developed by students of DigiPen Institute of Technology, which fun fact, I see their booth pretty often at PAX because they're a tech school, so I'm sure a lot of developers go there as well. So Robin Walker basically saw he's a Valve developer, saw the game at DigiPen's career fair, was impressed by it, contacted the team that developed the game, and then gave them some advice, and then offered to show the game at Valve's offices. Gabe Newell, impressed by the presentation, offered the team jobs at Valve to develop the game further. Many of the team who originally worked on the game joined Valve in order to create Portal, making it a spiritual successor to the former. The game took about 2 years and 4 months to complete after the team was brought into Valve, and no more than 10 people were involved in the development. So you can argue this is an indie game, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So basic premise of the game, or in terms of like I guess controls and mechanics of the game, you use the portal gun, right, to shoot 2 portals which are linked together, and the game essentially just acts as like a physics sandbox in some respects, where linear momentum and conservation of momentum and a bunch of other science shit happens.
A bunch of other science shit happens.
Fuck yeah, science. Look, I'm a musician, okay? There's a reason why I clearly didn't get into science and math. So one nice thing here I want to point out to you, I wish I was told this earlier on when I played this game, was many solutions exist to solve each puzzle. So experiment and try the simplest option your mind can create, because sometimes you'll see one is like, okay, this makes sense, and then your brain will figure out a different option way to solve each puzzle. And literally every puzzle I believe in this game has like an alternate solution. Mm-hmm. And this game is often cited as one of the greatest video games ever made, and I'm personally inclined to agree. It is a very, very fun experience, and I think is like one of the, especially experiencing it when I was younger, very, very influential in terms of my understanding and experience of what a video game can be. Because before Portal, I was kind of just like, okay, platformers, games with guns, and it's like, okay, that's real, and like a little bit of puzzle solving, right? But this was just like one of those games where I was like, oh, this is very different from anything that I've ever experienced in terms of a video game. And again, I think probably one of the most influential video games to have ever been created.
Wow. High praise.
Yeah. Again, I love this game. I mean, there was like a sequel to this game. There was like an added DLC to this game down the line as well too. So very popular game. Nothing crazy either. This game's like, I don't know, like it's not a crazy long game. It's like it can be done like a weekend type of deal.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah,
very good.
It's a fun kind of sprint game, and then like big community as well for like speedrunners of this game too. So, any game that has like puzzles and platforming, the community is always going to get around to try to figure out how to break and how to go as fast as possible.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, any questions before we get started here?
No, like you said, this game has been around forever. It's been massively popular outside of my sphere. I kind of know the basics of what I'm getting into, even a little bit past the basics, just because of all the memes. Like the Valve source like meme community has been active for a decade plus now.
Exactly.
So like you kind of know what you're getting into with a lot of these source games. So I'm just kind of excited to finally play this and have a reason to play it. I don't know. I never picked it up. Same thing with Half-Life. Like I just never played it. It's not that I wasn't avoiding it or I had no interest in it. I just had other games to play.
Word.
So it'll be fun to get into this.
Absolutely. I think you'll enjoy it. I think in terms of comparing this to like Half-Life, this is the much easier one to get into because it is a much shorter, kind of like a tighter experience overall. So I think this will be a good time for you.
Cool. Okay. Sounds good.
So listeners, there'll be a short break here, and for us it'll be like a week or so. For you guys it'll be about 5-10 seconds, and after the break we'll see how Jeff feels about Portal.
See you then.
Okay, listeners, we are back. It has been about a week or so, and Jeff has got his hands on Portals. Jeff, what do you think?
Lakan, the word nostalgia is a formation of the Greek words nostos, meaning homecoming, and algos, meaning sorrow or despair, and is defined as a wistful or excessively sentimental yearning for a return to or of some past period or irrecoverable condition. Holy shit, does this game make me feel nostalgic? From the opening sort of menu to the way that like the menuing looks, to the fact that, the way the game actually looks and plays and controls, to the humor. I felt like I was playing this game in my parents' house on my old little Dell XPS, not playing it in, my dining room as an adult. Wow, like it is definitely a game from the early 2000s, and I felt like I was a kid again, and I was just like wild, like just sitting there kind of just playing through it and thinking that like getting lost in the game and its presentation from like the early 2000s. I guess it's 2007, so it's a little later, but I don't know. It felt like a generation 1.0 sort of computer game, and it took me back to that time, man. So it was a lot of fun. The game's really good too. Like, the game's a lot of fun. The puzzles are really challenging. The gameplay is really cool and intriguing. So like, I'm happy that I got a chance to play it, but man, like it was kind of a kick in the nads.
Okay.
To have to go back and feel like, young again, but it was cool. It's a really cool game.
That's good to hear, because like as soon as you started talking about nostalgia, I thought I could have sworn you were gonna say my nostalgia glasses are too thick, and I am like looking at what I thought was a gem of a game, and you were gonna dunk on it. But I'm so glad to hear that you enjoyed this one.
No, it was fun.
Yeah, because like I mentioned it in the first half, where I think this is one of like the bigger like experiences that I ever had as like a first person puzzle platformer, right? And it's one of those games that like I wish I could forget so I could play it again and experience it again for the first time. There is that feeling of like this game does have like a very like so this game was on the Source engine, right? So this was again so we're after the first iterations of Counter-Strike, Half-Life, right? Half-Life 2 I think had been remade during the same time, or to be put on the Source engine as well. And that was like my first real foray into like FPS gaming on PC, because my old PC was very, very outdated and it couldn't handle anything FPS wise, even like Doom, like on my old PC. So for my first real experience playing this, in terms of like having a PC that could play this, and I also got this on the consoles on the orange box, right? Because it came out on the PS3 and the Xbox, yeah, exactly, on both the PS3 and 360. It kind of like brought me to another world of a game I hadn't experienced yet, and it not like even just brought me in, it like dragged me and like welcomed me in warmly. But like like when you go to like a family party and there's all like that one auntie or uncle's like, oh, good, I haven't seen you in so long, come on, like, and really excited to see you again kind of thing, or even almost like see you for the first time kind of thing. That's how I felt playing this game when I was younger, and I'm glad that you had like a positive experience with this game. I mean, for the most part, I don't think I've ever heard anybody even have like a truly negative experience with this game. I mentioned before that this game is very much held in like high regard for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, again, like this in kind of like the Half-Life series and kind of the world that Valve has created with these games. They are both like, connected. But yeah, it's good to hear that you enjoyed this one. So let's start it off, I guess, with when you started off this game. Obviously, very, very simple puzzles early on. It was literally just like walk here. You're right. Yep. Like shoot a portal here, exit here, walk through. Right. I remember my first experience with that portal mechanic being genuinely mind-blowing, where, I walk through a thing and then the room is like, now I'm seeing the same room in a different POV, and I'm seeing myself exiting the previous portal, and you know what I mean? Or entering the previous portal, exiting the new portal, right? Was there anything that kind of grabbed you immediately upon experiencing the game?
Hold on, sorry, I'm texting.
Okay.
What was the question?
Jeez, good to know that that portal held your attention better than I can. So my experience was like walking through the portal the first portal that I made, and exiting the second portal, right, and then seeing myself, and
that was trippy.
it was wild. So again, like for my first experience, like seeing that was a mind blowing experience. I'm like didn't realize that this could have been a mechanic in a game ever. You know what I mean? Because like portals in like previous games before this were kind of just like doors essentially, right to the next level.
Right.
And this was like, no, I'm interacting actively with said portal. And from my understanding, this is kind of like a pretty big thing in terms of like tech and game development. From my understanding,
Yeah.
But like, was there anything that grabbed you immediately when you first like started up the game? Like aside from like obviously getting transported back to a time where things were simpler and we just had like our youth and still like all the free time in the world to play video games.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I kind of noticed was GLaDOS, the voice, right, and kind of how dry sarcasm of this AI voice, right, kind of following you the entire time, and then slowly but surely kind of getting a little bit more frustrated, which we'll get into a little bit as the game goes on.
Mm-hmm.
As for the gameplay, I thought it was cool how it kind of showed you. It kind of showed, not told you how to use the portal gun, and was kind of like, here's what you can do. You can, you can set up a portal right where you land, and you can launch yourself further, right? You can use momentum to propel yourself further. You can, drop things through the portal. You can, shoot the energy ball right through, or like guide the energy ball through the portal so that you can complete the puzzles. And it showed you how to do all of that, especially early on. And I just thought it was cool. It was fun. It was more fun to be engaged rather than just have some disembodied voice tell you, this is how you use this weapon. This is how you use this function, right?
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, so that is also like a thing that I've acknowledged in like, games that I have not like issue with, but it is a thing that bothers me when it's just like, a game just tells me to do this, and it's just like, what I mean? You kind of just do it, but it doesn't really like stick with you sometimes because it's just kind of showing you, but you don't actually get to experience it. This game very much so feels like it's hand holding, but still allowing you all of the freedom in the world to do whatever you want.
You know what game has a really bad habit of telling and not showing you are the 3D Sonic games, because you get the power up, and then the disembodied voice tells you. I remember it specifically in Sonic 06, like the dummy ring bomb, like it gives you this whole convoluted explanation of Tails' weapon, the dummy ring bomb, instead of just giving you a bunch of enemies for you to like kill. I mean, I think it does like soon thereafter, but your first experience with this item is the disembodied voice telling you how to use the weapon rather than just letting you use the weapon
and mess around with it and actually experience it. Yeah, that's absolutely like a major point that like annoys me in like, I mean, I think I don't see it as much nowadays. I don't think, right? I mean, a little bit depending on the game you're playing, right? Like Cuphead has a little bit of like, Cuphead has that like it shows you what to do, and it just expects you to do it.
But then it lets you do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Titanfall does that as well. The Titanfall 2 campaign, like gives you like, here's a new toy, here's how to mess with it. Go ahead, and just basically lets you have free reign. Yeah, this game very again like this game, Half-Life 2. They do a lot of like a quick, very simple explanation of what the new toy they're essentially introducing to you is. And then just let you go, and again, all kind of like bumped up even more experience wise by GLaDOS, voiced by Ellen McLean, by the way. GLaDOS is like is iconic now in terms of like if you of gaming, right? Like you kind of hear that like off kilter AI-ish sounding, you know what I mean? Very sarcastic, very dry humor, kind of rude eventually, occasionally. Yeah. And then you mentioned before like it gets more and more twisted as the game goes on. But yeah, very, very appreciative of how well this game, I think it just introduces like mechanics to you throughout the entire game.
All the while, like your only source of companionship is this increasingly sassy artificial voice. I mean, that may or may not be trying to kill you.
Well, in terms of companionship, you also have the cube. Is your best friend, the companion cube.
True.
So yeah, you mentioned before like the how the game dealt with momentum and interactivity of like objects with said portals, right? I remember the first time experiencing like that little plasma ball one, and realizing, oh, I can just reset, or I eventually will have to reset portals in a specific order to make things go where I need them to. And I remember like thinking like I'm a genius. You know what I mean? Like when I first did it, and then realizing, oh, that's what the game wanted me to do. Okay, well.
The one where I felt like a super genius was the one where the area is split between the two walls that disintegrate everything.
Yes.
And you had to use the portals to like maneuver not just around the geometry, but also around the walls. And I was like, yeah,
and maintain the portals like activity basically. Like you don't
exactly.
Yeah, it's such a good feeling. What do you think about like that? Yeah, I mentioned I went through like a small spiel in the beginning, first half of this episode about like the science, right? The magnitude of linear momentum, like momentum conservation, basically, right? That becomes a much larger part in the game like later on, right? And in the beginning, they kind of introduce you like, oh, jump here, it launches you here, and then you get the more advanced version later on where it's like launches you here, now put another portal down to launch yourself again, right?
Mm-hmm.
I looked at like certain things, like they did a thing of like showing you something and letting you play with it, right? And then down the line they're like, hey, remember this thing you already theoretically should know how to do because you got to this point, right? Here's the harder version of it. Do you think in terms of like difficulty and progression, do you think this game had like I think it's personally one of like the best like progressions of difficulty designed in games for like if we're playing it straight, we're not trying to break the game, right? I think it's one of the great like the best ramp ups in terms of like difficulty. Like
I can see that for sure.
Yeah,
I could definitely see that. I think, like I think there's no spike, right? There's no difficulty spike. It's a constant climb. And honestly, it never felt like it was too hard to understand.
Okay. Yeah.
The entire time. And, it basically, it gave you everything you needed during each level and in the levels previous to set you up for success in the game. So like, I never felt behind the eight ball. I never felt like I didn't know I didn't have the tools to complete a level. I will say that sometimes my get out of jail free card was like, let me just zoom real fast and then just try to clear jumps or whatever.
Yeah, like basically brute force them.
Right. So like it happened. Like it would happen sometimes where I would just be like, okay, I don't kind of like, I don't want to say stuck, but I don't really know what to do here, so zoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let me get out of here and make this jump or whatever. But like I never felt like I was intentionally given less options to complete a level. Not that I'm like under duress either, because there's no real like enemies for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
It's the enemy is the geometry of the level around you, right? So
yes.
There's no, it's not like in Doom where I'm running out of ammo and I have, the Caco demon and a whole bunch of other demons shooting shit at me, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this, it's just kind of like, well, you miss the timing on the ball bouncing back and forth and things like that. That's about it.
So you mentioned about having like all the tools available to you and like do whatever you want to essentially, right? I mentioned that as well in the first half. Like, there is always like a semi-straightforward way to solve the puzzle, right? And then there's ways to like, brute force or style on it essentially, right? I remember I think I mentioned this in I think I want to say it's Doom 2016. Or am I don't remember if it's 2016 or Eternal. But do you remember when I said like there was like this bit where I was trying to like jump off this like one elevator and like dash through this thing and then grab onto like the little pole to like swing myself over the like a gap or in the doorway or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And it wouldn't let me do it. I had to do it the way the game told me to. Like that like annoys the hell out of me. Yeah, right? Because I already have some sort of like movement expression in the game, right? But then to tell me no, you can't do that. Unfortunately, you have to do it the way we programmed it, because the game wouldn't react properly. Like it wouldn't say I can latch on or whatever, even though I'm technically like above where I normally would have been to grab onto that railing, right? This one, in Portal, like yeah, like again, like you can brute force your way through. Like I told you, like mess around. Like there's always a straightforward way to do it. But if you see it another way, just go for it. The game kind of incentivizes you to do so. So as much as I joked about you kind of brute forcing your way through, it's right. It technically got you to the end goal, right? So it worked. So it doesn't really matter. That's kind of like this is a much more like open ended puzzle platformer in regards to compared to like other like FPS platformers that I've played.
No, yeah, I like I said, and I I watched a lot of playthroughs of the game as well, and like there's a lot of different ways to do these puzzles, right? So I appreciated that.
Did you dip your toe into like watching some of the speed runs of this game?
Oh yeah, of course.
It's wild. Like how
it's GDQ season, so like I'm watching speed runs anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, no, this game is insane.
Okay, listeners, we're back. I have no idea what we were talking about before. Jeff had to take a phone call, so there's that. Yep. I guess I'll go to the next part here. Was there any particular level where you experienced like a major, like something that like really clicked for you for the game? Like for me, the first experience of you getting trying to get thrown into like the incinerator, I think it was, right, down the little conveyor belt, and you make your first escape out of the rooms was obviously a major experience for me. Like,
right.
It's a major turning point in the game. It's your first view, like between the cracks of like the facility, basically, right?
Yep.
Was there anything for you that like had that kind of big moment for you, experience, like in the story anyway?
Yeah, like I think once GLaDOS started getting a little sassier and sassier, and then trying to kill. By the way, spoilers on this 20-year-old game.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry everybody for.
Yeah, I think like when GLaDOS first like tries to kill you, it's like, whoa, okay, she's not just a sarcastic, monotone AI bot. She is a sassy, monotone, sarcastic AI bot. The one level that I was like, where I first like clicked with the portal gun was there's this level with the moving platforms through the winding hallway. I think it's like. I want to say it's like 8 or 9 or like level 8 or 9 or something like that.
Okay.
It's early on in the game, but not like super early. It's kind of like once you first start like getting into the game here. And I basically learned how to like walk with the portals, if that makes sense. So like slowly but surely progress through a winding corridor with the portals. I don't know how else to describe it, but basically I was like, okay, so I put the portal like on one portion of the wall, and then I put the one portal, like I put the blue portal on the wall, I put the orange portal on the floor, I walked through the portal on the floor to get onto the conveyor belt or to get onto the platform, and then I shot the orange portal at the far wall, and then walked through, and then I shot the blue portal at the end of the hallway, basically like kind of like walking down, like navigating my way down this portal. Does that make sense? Or navigating this way down
so
this
that was test chamber 8, I believe you're talking about. So it's like the goo there's the goo on the bottom of the floor, right? The one where you fall into it, you die, and you restart, basically. Yeah. So there's a moving platform and then a stationary platform, and you're basically like, you're like, manipulating the portals on each side so you can basically go across, basically
traverse, right? And you can't jump far enough to traditionally, like in a Mario game where you would like traditionally like platform on these moving platforms and work your way down this corridor yourself. So you need to use the portals to kind of walk your way through. And so that's kind of was like the first level where I was like, hell yeah, I did it. I'm a genius.
Yeah, like there's I feel like everyone I've ever talked to about this game has always had like a different moment where they clicked for it. For one of my friends, he said the first one he really clicked with was the one where it launches you like super fast, like your first momentum jump, basically.
Yeah.
Which is like chamber 1 or 2, like or like 2 or 3, something like that. It's really early on.
If you think about it, if you've never played a game like this, and even like I haven't played much like this. That's a huge sort of gameplay element, right?
Yeah.
Like to launch yourself first person and not really know what's going on. All you know is that you're going fast, and then you just appear on like the other side of the level. It was crazy. Like it was a crazy movement thing.
Yeah, like so the movement in this game is like a major point. Obviously, a lot of the puzzles require momentum, right?
Right. Yep.
With the way that this game plays out, especially in the early parts. Again, it seems very squeaky clean for the most part against Sarcastic Robot and all this other stuff, right? And then you get to the part where you kind of end up in like kind of like the back rooms essentially, right?
Yes,
For this
yes,
game,
exactly.
like again, the cracks behind the pure white clean facility. You're like crawling through vents and like fiery pits that are behind traps of like the test rooms essentially, right?
Right.
And also with those escape part essentially of the game, you also get to see a lot of lore in this game, surprisingly. Like, I know you've mentioned before, like, you've gone down the rabbit hole of like Five Nights at Freddy's lore.
Yeah.
This is one of those games that, because obviously there's also multiple games attached to it as well, the lore in this game is pretty insane. There's one where the companion cube is possibly like the remains of a previous test subject. And that's why the character feels like an attachment to it. And obviously, if you're in isolation, you kind of create like a friendship essentially with the companion cube. There's like, if you like go through some of the back rooms and like you find like some of the writings on the wall and stuff, like, and I think there's like a comic at one point where like one of the previous test subjects was talking about how they fell in love with their companion cube. Like the game like shows so much. It just gives you a lot to like if you really want to delve into it, like just within the game, right? Like just looking at the madman scribblings on the walls and all this other stuff, and even then, like if you look at like the behind the scenes of the facility, like the escape part of the game, it shows that like this just gives the idea of this crazy massive scientific organization, right, that is like has all this crazy shit happening in the first place. You kind of see like the darkness behind. I mean, aside from obviously the machine trying to kill you,
right. Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, but like even more so like the fact that everything again the multitude of like test subjects before you as you're playing Shell is her name, escaping this one and essentially becoming the person to escape the facility. One thing I remember noticing in this game was there was no fall damage. So I remember when I first experienced, I was like, okay, cool, no fall damage. That's kind of first time experience for me. Weird thing now, right? You think that like that's kind of not standard, but like it's a thing that's happened in a lot of games nowadays, right? Like Titanfall, Apex, the Finals has no fall damage, but like. I think this is my first experience with the game with no fall damage, which makes sense because you're also flying at like crazy speeds.
Right, it would be kind of shitty if it like wanted you to rip through portals at breakneck speeds and then kill you for
if you hit a
landing
wall too fast
on the ground, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then I was like, okay, so, and also because the game is such a minimal HUD as well, too, right? Like I didn't know if there was a health bar or anything. So I remember my first experience with the turrets. And I was like, oh, I can die in this game. Okay, cool, got it. Like there are like, again, quote unquote enemies in this game. And then it's funny because the first experience is like, them locking on and then shooting at you and dying, of course. And then like you realize you can knock them over with like a companion cube and then they just shut down.
Yeah, so like I remember that was also something that was like kind of the first challenge that I faced was like, how do I progress through the turret level? And I kind of figured out like I was kind of like carefully placing the turrets around, trying to get them to shoot each other and all that. And then I watched like the speed run and the guy just grabs the turret and like runs through the entire hallway with the one turret. And I'm like, oh shit, I could have just done that.
And like the first time experiencing like putting a portal beneath one too, and then realizing I can kill myself with it still if I put the portal in the wrong spot.
True.
Like just bring one closer to me and just shoot the hell out of myself. Again, I praise the difficulty of this game and how it ramps up. What did you think about the final encounter of this game?
I just thought it was so fucking funny that I don't know, like for me, it was kind of like a little bit of an immersion break. It made sense in the grand scheme of all things because GLaDOS has like finally had enough and she's just like, all right, if nobody else can do it, I'll just fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like to have a boss fight in this game of all games was kind of like, damn, is no game safe for boss fights?
A little bit, right? I felt the same thing as well. When I first played this again back in 2007, or
Right.
2008, whatever the hell this was. When I actually got around to it, because I remember I was not like definitely not like playing this right away when I got it. But yeah, like it felt weird to have like a boss battle in this type of game, because again everything felt so like go at your own pace, right? And then now it feels like, oh, I actually have to play by the game's rules for one room, and like unfortunately it was right at the end.
Right. No. I get it. And at the very least, it wasn't like the game shifted from a, puzzle platformer to like an action game, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't turn into that. So at least like the boss fight made sense in terms of the mechanics of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was funny that like not really out of nowhere, but like your final crescendo isn't like a super difficult timed boss room or anything like that. It's literally a fight against the computer.
Yeah, and the fight against the computer felt like. Do you remember those like little small castles in like every Super Mario game where you have all you have to do is jump on Pom Pom or whatever his name is? Bam.
Yeah,
boom,
Bam Bam or
bam,
Boom
bam.
Bum Bum or whatever.
Yeah, you have to jump on him 3 times and that's the end of the fight.
Yep.
Like it felt a little bit like that, where it felt a little bit anticlimactic.
Yeah, a little bit, right? But I mean, it makes sense when you're just like you're not like a supercomputer AI, right? This is just like a kind of like in terms of like power, lack of a better term, power level, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just kind of like a computer that's running a testing facility. It's not like it's a super powerful supercomputer with access to, high grade weapon systems and all of that. It's just kind of like a regular computer, right? So like,
Yeah.
there's only so much it can do. So like, that makes sense.
So in the final fight, essentially, it's like, what is it like? It's like rockets, right? If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've actually like gone to the final battle.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So like you're basically just using the portals to manipulate the rockets to hit GLaDOS, and then you incinerate each individual part, right? Yeah, there we go.
Her personality, yeah.
Essentially. So, again, kind of like I wish it would have involved more of the mechanics, right? It involved me shooting myself at like a bullet to just smack her in the face with myself.
Right,
something like just go full absurd, right? At that point, like I and like, use all the mechanics and things that I've learned throughout the game, right? The energy, essentially the energy beams are essentially the rockets, right? That I lock onto from the turrets, and then like the just picking up garbage and throwing it into the incinerator. That's okay, basic, right? But yeah, and then so the game ends, and then you kind of see the the game kind of just winds down from that point on. You get to essentially see you get this like essentially like a finale, like a short cinematic essentially.
Right. Well, this is still alive. This is like the thing everybody knows.
Everyone
from
remembers
this game.
from the game. Yeah, exactly.
And the cake is a lie, basically, is like the only other thing. But yeah, so it does end on a nice little crescendo, and again, it was like a nice little like nostalgia trip to listen to this again.
And with the the way this game ended, I remember thinking, I wish the ending was a little bit more bigger. Like that was like me. I very much enjoyed my first time ever experience with the game. I remember just that being like a little bit of a nitpick that I had at the time. Again, I had to kind of like, but the overall experience was fantastic, right? Like, it was like a 9 out of 10 experience for me,
for sure.
But then like I remember, and then like I remember, years down the line, Portal 2 was announced. Yep. And I remember thinking like, oh shit, how else are they gonna make this game even crazier? And obviously that it again took a while before that it got to that point. But with the way this game ended, and I remember getting this on PC as well, was that's when I started experiencing like mods for this game.
Yeah, that was one thing I didn't really get into, were like the bonus levels and like the mods. I did experience them in video. Like I did watch one of the speed runs was like Party Boat percent or something, or airboat percent or something like that.
Okay.
Where you have to you spawn an airboat into the game, and you have to use it to clip through the walls and progress.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Which is insane, but like I didn't experience all of that stuff, but I did get to play the base game, and I did have a really good time.
That's good to hear. Did you get into? I don't remember if it showed up on the PC version. I remember on the PS3 version. Was there like a time trial?
I believe so. I'm pretty sure there is.
There was. Okay, cool. So that's the one. I remember that's when I realized people were speedrunning this game.
Oh yeah,
that was also my first time experiencing, like, trying to do anything like that. And it's funny because I remember at the time when I was playing it, I was just kind of doing the same solution that I had already figured out, but trying to do it faster, and then not realizing there are easier ways, or if not easier ways, more or more difficult ways that were faster, or even
right, or at least more consistent, so that you can get to the time you needed to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and have you gone back to any of do you only play this game once, basically, or did you?
Yeah, no, I played it once. I haven't gone back yet. I will. I wouldn't mind knocking around with it.
Yeah, and again, the fact that it is essentially like almost like a physics playground. Again, the game kind of incentivizes you to some extent to just kind of mess around and try to break it, which is like a nice, not a feature, I guess, but it's kind of like it's just kind of like a welcome part of the game that I don't know if they intended or not in the first place. But yeah, I think that's all I really got questions for here. I mean, I guess you touched upon it, but like, that Still Alive little song at the end, and then you actually finally get to see the cake.
Yeah.
But yeah,
looks good.
Yeah, it does, right? It looks like a Black Forest cake. Is that what it's called?
That's what it is, Black Forest cake.
Yeah. In regards to like this game with like its legacies, like there's like, again, Portal 2. There's like a Portal like Reloaded or whatever the hell it was, which is like kind of like essentially an official mod of the game that was made by like modders, and like Valve essentially supported it.
Right.
Again, the game is much more expansive than obviously just the one game itself. There's I bought the board game. I think one of you were you at my place when we played that one?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, but they had a board game that like kind of it involves like the little turrets and the cake and the little character pieces, and then like essentially like the entire game board is like essentially think of it as like a conveyor belt where you're constantly moving the board forward and taking like little pieces of the board and moving it to the back to move everything forward, kind of thing. It was a really cool mechanic for that game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that all I got for my questions. Anything you want to touch upon in this game?
No, I thought it was a really nice snackable kind of game. I mean, it took me it was like the 3-hour kind of run through here, maybe a little more than that. And yeah, like it was fun. I'm happy I finally got a chance to play it. It makes me kind of want to play through all the other Valve games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something for a future sort of playthrough, but I'm happy I got a chance to play it.
It's good to hear. Yeah, I think especially down the line, I would like you to experience Portal 2.
For sure.
And nice thing with Portal 2 is that it also has a co-op mode. So it actually involves it actually involves two players, like essentially like coordinating multiple portals together. And they also added a couple other mechanics as well too, which is really, again, I really thought this game kind of covered a lot really in terms of like a lot in terms of like how little to make a lot happen, right?
Yep.
Like just two portals, and then the world is your oyster, right?
Yeah.
They added more stuff in Portal 2 that is other mechanics, but it doesn't feel out of place. It very much so fits in terms of like what they were trying to do in terms of like a weird experimental facility type of thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think,
and we'll get into that one obviously eventually at some point. I would like to, and I'll gladly play through that one again.
Right, for sure.
Good to hear. Good to hear you enjoyed it. I appreciate you for giving this one a solid try, and actually putting up with an older game, as we said before. Like especially around, I remember you mentioned you had no real feelings toward playing any of the Half-Life games or whatever, but this one's like a kind of adjacent, so it's maybe a little easier to get into, especially early on in comparison. So if you don't want to get too heavy into the lore and all that other stuff.
No, for sure. No, I love a nice lore, so it might be a good idea to dig in.
Good to hear. Okay, listeners, thank you guys for tuning in for this one. A little bit of a shorter episode, but again, kind of like the whole thing is that Portal is. Are you here? Hello?
Leave this in.
Are you here? Can you hear me? Hello?
Folks, if you can hear me, I'm all by myself now. It's finally happened. It's just me
check 1 2
and an open microphone.
Mic check.
I don't know where Lakan is.
Huh.
I've got some things I want to say. Finally. I don't like pineapple on pizza. I try to play it cool. I try to play like people.
Well,
can have what they
I
want
DC from
on their
Discord.
pizza. I don't think pineapple belongs. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Disgusting, quite frankly. And you know what? I don't like mushrooms either. I hate mushrooms, even though I'm Italian. I hate mushrooms and eggplant. I don't like eggplant.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. What happened?
My PC lost internet connection. I don't know if my router went down or whatever. I'm currently using data on my phone.
Oh no.
Yeah.
You want me to wrap it up?
Yeah. I mean, we were in the middle of our wrap up anyway. Here we go. Let's try this real quick. I'm still recording. I literally heard you saying, "Well, if I can't hear Lakan, so I'm by myself right now," and I was like, "No, I'm here." Okay, 1 second. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Well, that was awkward.
I was just going off about things I don't like on pizza and food I don't like. And I had an open microphone. I could finally say it.
Well, send me that audio and I'll see what I can go ahead and share with the world for you here.
Right.
So listeners, I got just disconnected out of nowhere from the call and my internet just shut down for a second. So that was awkward. You'll probably hear a little bit of Jeff saying, "Hello, Lakan, I can't hear you." And him talking about how he has free reign over the podcast now. But listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you, whatever platform you're currently listening to us on, leave us a like, leave us a review, share us with a friend. We really appreciate the support. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
See you then.
Okay, I'm full of Vicks and beef jerky. That is a good way to end my day.
Agreed.